So, welcome back to the bottom line with P. Drew. Before we get started, y'all definitely hit that like button, hit the notification bell so you can see when we drop new videos, and absolutely subscribe to the channels. We got a whole lot to get into as far as college football is concerned, but we have to start with Mr. Lane Kiffin leaves Ole Miss to take the LSU Tigers job. He was basically leaning towards taking that job for weeks now. All the implications was that he was going to take the job at LSU. And I mean, at the end of the day, LSU is a top 3 job in college football, if not the best job in college football. It's not hard to recruit there. A lot of kids around the country want to play at LSU. You have a huge support from the state, from the governor. You have a lot of money for NIL. For a lot of the players will go there for through the transfer portal. So it's not hard to recruit at LSU. Like I said, LSU is a huge brand, if not the biggest brand as far as college football is concerned. So I don't fault him for taking it. I think a lot of people are mad at him about the way that he left Ole Miss. He had built that program the last 6 years that he was there. He had a lot of kids commit to him. He had a lot of staff members, and that's another thing. He's taking the staff members with him. And so I think the exit could have been handled a little differently. I mean, you had a lot of distractions through the media, and every day they were talking about it. What are you going to do? So I think it could have been handled a lot better. So a lot of people are mad at him, but we're talking about Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin exits are never pretty. They're always got some controversy behind them. People are always mad at him about the way that he leaves. I mean, it's the same thing when he left Tennessee, USC, when he got fired by Nick Saban. Then he takes the FAU job. Then he leaves FAU. Then he goes to Ole Miss. Now, Ole Miss was probably his best destination as far as coaching. He's won a lot of games. He's one of the best offensive minds in college football. He's a great recruiter. A lot of kids want to play for him because they know they'll get opportunity to play their offense. They'll be able to get their stats. They're going to look good. And so I understand why, the bigger schools were recruiting him. But once again, the job at LSU is one of those jobs that don't open up every day. And so when it does and they come calling, I said, I can't blame him for wanting to take the LSU job. But the thing is, with the way the schedule works and the way when the transfer portal opens is in January, is right in the middle of the college football playoff. And so the calendar is a lot of things that people are worried about and talking about. They're upset with that because they feel like it should be after the season. And so if there's a coaching change, the coach will be able to finish out his season throughout the playoff and then be able to take the new job and get his team together through the portal, which is basically like free agency, I guess, now, because they pay players and players move so much. So when coaches leave and they take jobs, they're not able to finish the season. So obviously the athletic director came out and said that Lane Kiffin is not going to be able to coach his team throughout the college football playoff because he's taking a new job, which makes sense because if you're going to build a new team and you have to do it in the middle of you guys playing in the playoff, what sense does that make? And you're going to a rival school that's in the SEC. And so it makes sense for the athletic director of Ole Miss to come out and say, no, you're not going to coach this team. You go ahead and leave, pack your bags, and get the hell out of here. I mean, if you're leaving one job to go to another job, and it's like you want to say, oh, I want to stay but let me stay through Christmas, or let me stay till, January. No, you picking a new job, get your ass, pack your bags, get the hell out of here, and you're not coaching the team. So it definitely makes sense. You know what I'm saying? It's just the timing with everything and the way the calendar works in college football. That's just the way it is. But like I said, Lane Kiffin, instead of dragging this thing out and have everybody talking about it, he could have handled it better. Just told his team, hey, guys, I'm probably going to leave because everybody was up in the air. You got players that you recruited. You got coaches that you hired. And, you owe it to them, and especially the school itself, that you had built there for the last couple of years. They believed in you. And so the exit could have been handled much better. But once again, it's Lane Kiffin that we're talking about. And that's just the way he departs, man. He makes a big spectacle of everything, or the media makes a big spectacle of him, vice versa, whichever you want to call it. But that's just what it is. And, so Lane Kiffin will be the new coach of the LSU Tigers, and he will start to build his team when the transfer portal opens in January, and he will not finish the season with Ole Miss. And Ole Miss is going to be in the college football playoff at 11-1. They win the Egg Bowl against Mississippi State. They dominate the Egg Bowl, by the way. It was 38-19. And so, they really had a shot to win. So I think that's another reason people are upset, because for the first time in a long time, Ole Miss is in the college football playoff and have one of the better teams. They had their best season at that program, and they were headed in there, and a lot of people really felt like with him at the helm, they really had a chance. So it's going to be interesting to see what the committee does and where they rank Ole Miss now that Lane Kiffin is not the coach. And it all depends on how many coordinators and what staff members that he plans on taking with him. And so if he takes staff members with him, it's going to be like, who's left to coach the team? And the committee is going to look at that and might drop them in the rankings because of that. Right now, they were projected to go probably 7. The 6 or 7, depending on where the committee put them, but they were going to be in a good position, maybe even to get a home playoff game. But now they're probably not going to, and the committee's probably going to drop them now that they see that Lane Kiffin will not be the coach. So once again, he takes the LSU job. So we'll see what happens with Ole Miss as they rank them in the college football playoff. But to continue with the SEC after this rivalry week we had, so Texas on Friday night, Texas defeats undefeated Texas A&M 27-17. Texas coming down the stretch, Texas has looked much better. Arch Manning has been playing his best ball the last probably 3 or 4 weeks. I know he struggled early in the season and in mid-season. They struggled to beat some of the good teams. Like, they needed overtime to beat Mississippi State. They obviously lost to Ohio State to open the season. Arch Manning did not look good in the beginning of the season. Obviously, this is his first year starting, even though all the hype was around him. But, the last couple of weeks and to close out the season, they closed the season the best that you possibly could. I mean, you can only do what you can, play who's in front of you. Then you didn't control your own destiny, but just because of the way you started the season. But at 9-3, even though you defeated an undefeated Texas A&M, kept them out of the conference of the SEC championship game. I think that 9-3 is not going to be enough to be able to get that bid. There's just too many teams that are in front of you that only have 2 losses, and they're trying to fight to get in as well. So at 9-3, Texas is not going to get them. But like I said, I think they have promise for next year. Like I said, if you finish the season strong, that's all you can do. Pick up the pieces with what you had left, and you got your biggest win of the season, and you probably will finish your season defeating an undefeated Texas A&M and keeping them out of the SEC championship game. So you can look forward to next year. More than likely, Arch will stay, because if he dares try to go into the draft now, he probably won't get drafted. Or he's getting drafted in the 6th, 7th rounder, because that's just the way he played. He did not play up to par this year, so he probably will return next year, and you can build off of that momentum the way you finish the season with a huge win. So shout out to Texas. Shout out to Arch Manning, man. Like I said, all you can do, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And look forward to next year. You guys you're probably going to lose some guys to the draft, but you have your quarterback, you have your coach, and just build off next year and look forward to the program and what you can have for next season. So Georgia defeats Georgia Tech 16-9. That was a hell of a game. A lot of the people thought that Georgia was going to just blow the doors off Georgia Tech, but this is a rivalry. This is a Georgia rivalry that they play every year, so you don't expect that in rivalry week. You usually expect good games no matter what the records and the standings are, and Georgia Tech was actually a good team. I mean, I know they got the doors blown off of them last week against Pitt at home, and it kind of messed up their ACC championship hopes, but Georgia Tech, Haynes King, still a good team, so they gave Georgia everything they wanted. Georgia locked down on defense, but also so did Georgia Tech. And I watched that game, and Georgia Tech's defense came to play. They stepped up. They had Gunnar Stockton shaking all day. They couldn't get much offense going. Georgia couldn't. So it was a hell of a game, but they did end up pulling it out. And so Georgia's right now, it looks like it's going to be a rematch with Alabama for the SEC championship since Texas A&M lost. So Georgia gets to avenge their one loss on the season, which came to the hands of Alabama. So now you get to go out and you can win the SEC championship, get you a first round bye if you can win that game. Because right now Georgia's probably sitting pretty in the 3 spot since Texas A&M lost. So when the polls come out on Tuesday, Georgia more than likely will be the number 3 ranked team, and if they can win the SEC championship, they definitely will get that first round bye, and maybe as a 2 seed because Ohio State and Indiana are playing, and whoever loses that game, well, if Indiana loses that game, they'll probably drop down to the 4 spot. And Georgia can absolutely take the 2 spot if they can beat Alabama in the SEC championship game. Then you had Oklahoma defeats LSU 17-13. So Oklahoma definitely punched their ticket into the college football playoff with a 10-2 record. A win over Alabama, obviously. And even though they lost to Texas, they only have 2 losses, and that win over Bama, they probably will be in that 7, 8, 9 range. So Oklahoma, shout out to Oklahoma, they are definitely in. But John Mateer, let me tell you something, that defense has been carrying them. If they want any hopes of beating, if they got hopes of coming out of that first round, John Mateer has got to play better. He started off the season pretty decent. He in the first couple of games that Oklahoma played, he was looking like one of the better quarterbacks in the country, but he has fallen off a cliff since that injury. I mean, he came back. I think he missed 1 game, but he came back. He was still kind of injured, but he has just not been the same player. The defense has absolutely been carrying Oklahoma. So if Oklahoma wants any chance of getting out of that first round, John Mateer has got to play, and John Mateer and the whole offense have got to play better. They have got to play better. But they did punch their ticket with that win over LSU. And then obviously in the Iron Bowl, a hell of a game also, Alabama defeats Auburn 27-20. So Alabama, like I said, they jumped out to a 17-0 lead, and then Auburn kind of rallied the troops together, and they started coming back. It was 17-13. Then Alabama scored. They got a field goal and scored late. And then Auburn was driving down the field. They scored another touchdown. It was 27-20 in the fourth quarter. Auburn was driving down the field to try to win, to try to tie up the game. And the guy, Coleman, I believe it was, caught the pass, and he was trying to break some tackles, fight for extra yards, and they were able to punch it out, and he fumbles under 2 minutes left. So Alabama survives the Iron Bowl 27-20, which is always a good game, man. Like I said, Auburn has been struggling all season to close games, and they just did it again. They fired Hugh Freeze, their coach, earlier in the season. And DJ Durkin, who was the defensive coordinator, ended up taking the interim tag. And he, like I said, they fought and tried their best, but they end up going 5-7 on the season. Disappointing, because Auburn actually was supposed to be a much better team. Jackson Arnold, who started the season, got benched for the young boy. I forgot his name, but he's brought a spark to the team. The offense has been looking much better since he was inserted. Since they benched Jackson Arnold, the offense has been looking a lot better, and Auburn has just been right there. They've been right there all season. They've been fighting. They've been in every single game. They just have not been able to close it out. And now even against Bama, they had a chance to go down and tie it up, and then just another mistake with Auburn. But like I said, they fall to Bama, so hopefully they can figure. I believe they just hired one of them coaches they hired. I think it was Alex Golish. I think the guy from South Florida, I believe that's who they hired as the coach. Either for him or Tulane, I can't remember. I think they hired the South Florida coach. No, is it South Florida or the Tulane coach? One of them. But so they have their new coach. So we'll see what Auburn does going forward. And then Vanderbilt absolutely destroys Tennessee, 45-24. Look, let me tell you something. And I love Tennessee. I like Joey Aguilar. But like I said, at 8-4, you're definitely not sniffing the college playoff. But Diego Pavia, Diego Pavia has put Vanderbilt on his back. What a game. His stat line was absolutely ridiculous. And every week, Diego Pavia is doing that. He's putting up stats. He's putting up numbers. They are winning games strictly because of him throwing the ball, running the ball. I mean, he is basically their entire offense. And at 10-2, they're on the outside looking in. I believe right now they'll probably be ranked 13 or 14. So they're more than likely Vanderbilt is not going to make the college football playoff. But if it was me, I would absolutely. When you're talking about ratings and eyeballs and eye tests, Vanderbilt, absolutely. You got to try to find a spot for Vanderbilt. And because of that group of five, the group of five has to get a team in. The ACC, 9 times out of 10, has to have a team in there. So because of that, they are going to be on the outside looking in. And then the committee loves Notre Dame. They're going to have Bama. Even if Bama loses the SEC championship, they're going to get that at-large bid at 10. And so that's going to leave Vanderbilt out, man. But if you have watched Diego Pavia this entire season, there's no way you can say that they don't deserve to be considered to get an at-large spot, because he has been balling. I believe he'll be a Heisman finalist. I don't believe that he'll win it, but he absolutely deserves to be in that. He gets he should be on that panel of finalists. Absolutely, man. The way this is Vanderbilt, by far their best season. They've never won 10 games. They're in the SEC and they won 10 games. So, I mean, like I said, if you're talking about eye test and you talking about a college football playoff where you want excitement and explosion, Diego Pavia embodies all of that. He is the definition of all of that. And so when it comes to consideration, when you're talking about ratings and stuff, I would give Vanderbilt a shot. But once again, you got Notre Dame in front of them. You got Miami in front of them, who Miami probably won't get in either. But like I said, when it comes to, if you're talking about ratings and you're talking about a team that you want to see in the playoff, I would even give, and I love Miami. I'm a Miami Hurricane fan. But if you're asking me who I would rather watch, it's Diego Pavia. And I would give Vanderbilt, I would try to find a way to get Vanderbilt in there because of him, he is going to make the game interesting. So shout out to Vanderbilt. They don't control their own destiny. They just did what they could do. They stomped Tennessee in Tennessee. So, like I said, in Knoxville, they did it in Knoxville. So, like I said, they did all that they could do. Like I said, Diego Pavia had a hell of a season. He had a hell of a game. So, unfortunately, 9 times out of 10, Vanderbilt is going to get left out of the college football playoff at 10-2 just because of the way it's structured. But like I said, the SEC. Oh, man, it's coming down. Like I said, Alabama versus Georgia in the SEC championship. So we will see who will be representing the SEC in the college football playoff. So now moving on to the Big Ten. So in the Big Ten, you got the Big Ten championship. You got Indiana versus Ohio State. I cannot wait for this game. Y'all know I have been riding high for Indiana all season, and I am not stopping now. I believe Fernando Mendoza will be the Heisman Trophy winner. He will be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, unless the Titans get it. But he'll be the first quarterback taken off of the board in the NFL draft, and he is going to walk into wherever they're playing, and Indiana will defeat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship, and they will be the number 1 overall seed in the college football playoff. I'm calling it. I'm stamping it. I have been riding with this team. I have been riding with Fernando Mendoza all season, and I'm not about to stop now. They will be the number 1 seed in the college football playoff. They will defeat Ohio State this weekend in the Big Ten championship. And like I said, they stomped Purdue, which we all thought 56-3. So like I said, they just need to gear up and get ready for Ohio State, who won the rivalry game against Michigan 27-9. Started off rocky. Michigan went up 6-0. They picked off Julian Sand. They were running ram shot in that first quarter. They were running ram shot in the snow over Ohio State. It looked like Michigan was going to give Ohio State all that they wanted. Remember, Michigan has beaten Ohio State the last 4 rivalry games between Ohio State and Michigan. So they were looking to go 5 in a row, but no, Ohio State comes out from the second quarter on and just completely dominated the game. Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate. I mean, you're talking about, man, they just got stars everywhere. Caleb Downs, Arvell Reese, Buddy Styles, the other linebacker, man, they just got players, bro. And then Julian Sands stepped it up. For the rest of the game, he finishes 19 of 26, I think 200-something yards, 3 touchdowns. Ohio State is just a complete team, both sides of the ball. Defense is, like I said, they got stars everywhere, stars on offense. I mean, they are a star-studded team, and they just handle business from the second quarter on. They dominated Michigan, shut down Bryce Underwood. He only had 63 yards passing, couldn't get the offense going after that first quarter, and they just had no answers. Ohio State, like I said, when it comes to both sides of the ball, they're just star-studded. And they, like I said, they handle business. So they stopped the streak of 4 in a row against Michigan, and they punched their ticket to the Big Ten championship. Like I said, 12-0 on the season. Indiana 12-0 on the season. So the number 1, number 2 team that have basically been that for most of the season, they meet in the Big Ten championship, a clash of the Titans, basically to see who will be the number 1 overall seed. And then Oregon defeats Washington 26-14, and with the Texas A&M loss, Oregon probably will move up. They're more than likely will host their playoff game. They finished the season at 11-1, only losing to Indiana at home on the season. But the committee is high on Oregon. But Oregon, like I said, when you're talking about lining up both sides of the ball, they're usually known as a finesse team, but they are a finesse team with some beef down on the lines now. They really push on both sides of the line. They are in the trenches. So Oregon is a really good team. A lot of people feel like they're going to go deep and they're going to make a deep playoff run. Me personally, I don't think so. I don't see Oregon beating some of those SEC teams. I really don't. I think if they run into an SEC matchup, and if they get that 6, if they could probably get that 6 seed, they probably might be able to dodge an SEC team. But I think the first SEC team that they run up against, Oregon, will lose. But I like their team. Like I said, Dante Moore's been balling all season. I can't hate on that. I mean, he's a good player. Probably going to come out. Probably more than likely will be the second quarterback if he comes out. I think he has been talking about staying for one more year. But if he comes out this year, he'll probably be the second quarterback behind Mendoza taking off the board. And like I said, they'll probably finish around that 5, 6, 7 mark, depending on how it shapes up, because with Texas A&M losing, they'll probably get that 5th seed. And so, like I said, Oregon in the college football playoff probably going to be around that 6, 7 range, but they're definitely going to host their first playoff game in that first week. So, I said, shout out to Oregon. And I believe those will probably be the only Big Ten teams that are going to make it, even though USC, they finished the season strong, 29-10, but with 3 losses, they're not going to make it in. So now here we go with the madness and the ACC. Man, listen, the ACC, just with SMU losing and Virginia winning, the ACC championship is now Duke, because they only have 1 loss, and Virginia. Now, I just hope Virginia wins. I hate that it's those 2 teams. I was looking forward to a Georgia Tech Miami ACC championship, but both Georgia Tech and Miami, they tripped up, stumbled mid-season. So unfortunately, neither. I wanted to see Haynes King and Carson Beck. I still think that Georgia Tech and Miami are the 2 best teams in the ACC. But based on the way the season went and their losses, we got a Virginia Duke ACC championship, and I just want Virginia to win so they can get their automatic bid. Because if Duke wins and they win the ACC championship at 7-5, they are not going to make the college football playoff. And then you have madness. You can get 2 teams from the group of 5. Now listen, man, the group of 5. I understand that you have to get a group of 5 team in. And I think North Texas or Tulane might be formidable. I don't think they will. I think they're going to get their ass beat. Whoever they play in that against that 5th seed, they're going to get the doors blown off of them. But like I said, they have the group of 5 that's supposed to get in. But if you get 2 teams in there, because the ACC champion becomes Duke, and Duke is not going to make it at 7-5, now you're going to mess up the first round of the playoff, because now JMU has a shot to make it. You're going to get Tulane or North Texas in there. You might get 2 group of 5 teams. Look, man, we do not want to see blowouts in the playoff. We already going to get one because the group of 5 has to get one in, and they have to play the 5th seed. Like I said, they're going to get the doors blown off of them, whoever they play. So we don't want 2 blowouts in the first round. We don't want that. But because of the situation now with Duke, if Duke beats Virginia, they're not going to get into the playoff. No ACC team is going to get in the playoff, and you're going to get 2 group of 5 teams in. Please, I do not want that to happen. We want a playoff that's got good substance, the best teams in there. We let the group of 5 in there. Only give them one. Please do not let, if JMU plays anybody in this college football playoff, they are going to get their ass whooped. They're going to get the doors blown off of them. Please do not let that happen. Virginia, just take care of business, because even y'all are going to get beat, whoever y'all play in that first round too. So just handle y'all business, beat Duke, and get that ACC automatic bid at the 11th spot. Please do that. Do not let Duke beat you. And then the madness happens. So, like I said, shout out to the 8th. And then Miami smacks Pitt 38-7. I want Miami. Like I said, I am a Miami Hurricane fan. I love the U. I'm down here in South Florida. We root for the U all day, all night. But, man, look, Carson Beck just fumbled the bag. He fumbled the bag early in the season. They lost to Louisville and SMU in a 3-week span. They lost to Louisville at home, 4 interceptions. That was the game Carson Beck came out and threw 4 interceptions, and then they lost at SMU 2 weeks later. And so because of those 2 losses, Miami now does not control their own destiny. They are not. And even though SMU got knocked out, because Duke only has 1 loss in the conference, they get the automatic. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying that. Fucking 7-5 Duke is playing for the ACC championship. We have a 10-2 Miami sitting there. But because they had the 2 conference losses to teams that they shouldn't have lost, even the SMU one is a little more understandable. There's no way you should have lost to Louisville at home. No way that should have happened. But because of that, now you guys are on the outside looking in. I believe Miami should be in. They should get an at-large bid, but because they had that head-to-head over Notre Dame. But the committee absolutely loves Notre Dame. We know the committee always loves Notre Dame. And Notre Dame is ranked like 4 or 5 spots ahead of Miami. So because of that, the head-to-head is not going to have the same weight that it should have. And they are going to put Notre Dame in this college football playoff over Miami. The only way Notre Dame does not get in is if BYU beats Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship, and then you get 2 Big 12 teams and BYU is going to take Notre Dame's spot. That's the only way Notre Dame is not getting to this playoff. Other than that, if Texas Tech handles business, which I believe they will, and beats BYU in the Big 12 championship, then they are going to give the at-large bid to Notre Dame over Miami. Like I said, you can make all the case that you want. Because of those 2 fucking losses in the middle of the season, the U does not. They're on the outside looking in, and 9 times out of 10, they are not going to be able to get into the college football playoff, even though I would love to see them in there. I want to see them in there, but they're not going to get in. So they just did what they could do. They smacked Pitt. They beat Pitt better than Notre Dame beat Pitt. And they had the head-to-head over Notre Dame, but the committee absolutely loves Notre Dame. Notre Dame has looked like the much better team throughout the season. Even though Miami beat them in week 1, it was week 1. CJ Carr, that was his first start, obviously. And so they're saying that Jeremiah Love, and the entire team has looked a lot better than Miami up to this point. Even though, and a lot of people saying, I think Notre Dame would beat Miami on a neutral site right now. I don't believe that. It would be a good game, but I would still pick Miami to beat Notre Dame again. Neutral field, at home, in fucking South Bend, wherever y'all want to play. I think Miami would beat Notre Dame again. But unfortunately, like I said, those 2 losses that they had against Louisville and SMU really fucked them up and put them on the outside looking in as far as the playoff goes. So shout out to Miami. I hope some miracle can happen where they can get a squeeze in, but right now it's really not looking like it. They're probably going to give that spot to Notre Dame or BYU if BYU ends up beating Texas Tech. And so with that, we are going to move to the Big 12. So BYU defeats USF 41-21. Texas Tech was off. So Big 12 championship, a rematch, BYU, Texas Tech. Texas Tech is just the better team, man. Baron Morton has had a hell of a season. They're just solid across the board. Defense is legit. Offense, both sides of the ball, Texas Tech. And I actually think Texas Tech is a lot better than a lot of people rank them. I think they're more than likely, if they beat BYU and win the Big 12 championship, they're going to be in that top 4. They're going to get a first round bye. And I think Texas Tech is going to wreak some havoc in this playoff. I think they're a lot better than a lot of people are giving them credit. I know they're in the Big 12, and the Big 12 is not looked at, like the SEC or the Big 10. But let me tell you, Texas Tech is a hell of a team, and I believe Texas Tech can beat anybody in the country. Their offense is that explosive, and their defense is that good. Their defense, I mean, there have been games where they've leaned on their defense. Their defense locks teams down. They got one of the better defenses in the country. And their offense is explosive enough to be able to put up points. I think Texas Tech, me personally, I think Texas Tech is going to get to the semifinal of this playoff. I truly believe that. I believe they'll win after the bye. Whoever comes and plays in Texas Tech, I believe they'll beat them. And I believe that Texas Tech is going to get to the semifinal of the college football playoff. And depending on who the matchup is and who they play, I might pick them to beat that team. Like I said, Texas Tech is a very, very good, well-coached team, very balanced team on both sides of the ball. And I think that Texas Tech can beat anybody in the country. And Baron Morton is very underrated as a quarterback. I see him coming off of the draft board, probably maybe not in the first round, but I see him second, maybe third round. He's talented. I think he's an NFL I think Baron Morton is an NFL quarterback, and I think he'll get his shot. He'll definitely get drafted. So we'll see. Shout out to Texas Tech, but I do believe that they'll beat BYU again. They beat them handily the first time, and I think that they'll do it again. They were at BYU, and they handled them. And so I do believe that on a neutral site, Texas Tech is just a better team, and I think that they will knock BYU out, because if BYU loses, they are not going to let a 10-2 BYU team or 11-2 BYU team in the college football playoff. They'll leave them out. But if BYU wins and they get the automatic bid, Texas Tech will still be in the playoff. They probably just will not get the first round bye. They'll probably slide down to maybe 6 or 7, which is going to cause some shift from other teams. But BYU will punch their automatic bid by being the Big 12 championship in. And if they get in, they will probably be in that 9 to 10 range, which would put Notre Dame in a bind, and it probably would push Notre Dame out of the college football playoff. Because let's just say, for example, if Georgia goes in and they beat Alabama in the SEC championship, they'll get a top 4 seed, and they'll get a bye. But Bama will more than likely get that 10 spot. They're going to keep Bama in the playoff. I think Bama has done enough in this season that the SEC championship is not going to affect them. So they'll be fine. But what's going to happen is Bama will probably be ranked 10 or 11, and then BYU is going to be ranked 10 or 11 right there with them, which would mean somebody has to get pushed out, because you still got Ole Miss, you still got Oklahoma, you still got Oregon, you got Texas A&M. That's going to be the 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9s. So you got Oregon, you got Texas A&M, you have Texas Tech, and then you have Oklahoma. Yeah, so that'll be that'll be the 5 through 9, and then that 10, 11, and 12, you're gonna have the group of 5. You're probably gonna have Virginia, who is gonna beat Duke and get that automatic the 11th spot, and then you're gonna have to put BYU in there because they're the Big 12 championship, which would leave Notre Dame on the outside. So Notre Dame is really, really hoping that Texas Tech takes care of business and beats BYU, because if BYU beats Texas Tech, Notre Dame more than likely will not make the college football playoff. So Notre Dame would be out, Miami would be out, and Vanderbilt all would be 10-2, but on the outside looking in at the college football playoff, which would be unfortunate. But I wouldn't mind it happening. I ain't gonna lie, I don't give a damn because Notre Dame. I'm so pissed that Notre Dame is gonna get that bid over Miami. I would rather see Notre Dame sitting right next to Miami with both of them being out, rather than seeing Notre Dame get that bid and having Miami on the outside, looking for a bowl game to play in. So, like I said, I think that will happen? No, because I think Texas Tech is just a better team, and I believe Texas Tech will defeat BYU, and Notre Dame will more than likely get that 10th spot in the college football playoff. So I'm rooting for BYU to win, but I don't believe that'll happen. Texas Tech is the better team, and I believe that they'll be the representative of the Big 12. And then lastly, the group of five. Like I said, the group of five, you got North Texas playing Tulane in the American Championship, and those are just the two best teams of the group of five. And so I believe that North Texas, I believe, is going to get it. Tulane, it could go either way. I wouldn't mind seeing Tulane or North Texas. Both teams have represented the group of five basically all season as the two best teams. You got JMU sitting there. They've had a great season as well with only one loss on the season. But I just think, as far as the group of five, I would rather see North Texas, because North Texas kind of has an explosive offense, and Tulane is a good balanced team as well. So I would rather see North Texas or Tulane, whoever wins that game of the American Championship, get that ticket and be in that 12th spot. A lot of people are picking Tulane. I think North Texas is going to get it done. I really do. But like I said, we'll see. Whoever wins that game, they will get in. But once again, if Duke, and I'll say it again, if Duke beats Virginia in the ACC championship, neither team will get in, and that opens the door for JMU to slide in for that spot. It is so crazy to say, because North Texas or Tulane will probably move up they would get that 11th spot. The American champion will get that 11th spot, and JMU will probably slide in 12 and then lose by 50 to Texas A&M or Oregon or whoever they have at that 5 spot. So, like I said, we will see, man. But the conference championships are coming up, so I can't wait. Once again, so in the American, you got North Texas against Tulane. In the Big 12 championship, you have Texas Tech versus BYU. In the ACC championship, you have Duke versus fucking Virginia. Virginia, please win so we don't have no madness going on. In the Big 10 championship, which is, to me, is the game of the week, Ohio State against Indiana. Let's go Indiana. Fernando Mendoza and the Indiana Hoosiers will defeat the Ohio State Buckeyes, giving them their first loss on the season and finish as the number 1 overall seed in the nation going into the playoff. And then the SEC championship, the rematch against Bama and Georgia. So I can't wait. And then selection, they have the final playoff poll coming out on Tuesday night. And then selection Sunday is this Sunday after the conference championship game. So I can't wait to see what the committee selects. Everybody's been making their picks and having their predictions, but we will have it all and solidify this on Sunday and see which teams are punching their ticket to the college football playoff.